Hi, everybody. This is Liz from Delaney & Sons, and I have Josh Lowensteiner here to talk to us today about how to buy a gun at auction, since he works at Morphy Auction, and just what the process is and how we go about doing it. So thanks for joining us today, Josh. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great. It's great to be here. I appreciate it. And I think it's a great opportunity to talk, maybe demystify the auction process a little bit over our little chat here. So thank you for having us. It's a great idea.
Well, our pleasure. So how did you get into guns in the shooting world, and how did you start all that?
So I think I started going to gun shows with my dad when I was about maybe 8 years old. And he's always, for some strange reason, my grandparents hated guns, but then my dad took a liking to hunting, and he's always been into guns. And particularly, he really started to collect and focus on American double guns. So the classics like Parkers, Lefevres, Foxes, LC Smiths. And I started going to gun shows with him when I was 8, and I really started taking to a liking to it. And then I guess when I got into college and had some money, I started buying some guns and kind of built my own collection, and then started buying and selling to buy more, and you know how it goes. And then as I got into my working career, I was in the insurance business for a long time. And then in 2013, I decided to make a change and went to go work for James D. Julia Auctioneers in Fairfield, Maine at the time, and continued to work for him until 2017, when that business was sold to Dan Morphy in Denver, Pennsylvania, and I've worked for Morphy since then. So formally been in the business for about 7 years now, a little over 7 years.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. I'm sure you get to see a lot of nice guns come through there.
It's crazy, actually. We get the world's best gun collection every 6 months, and then we get rid of it, and we go out and get another one. So it's a lot of fun. It makes it an interesting thing.
I bet. So how does the auction process work? And, can you tell us more about how often you do it, and, what goes into creating this auction that you have?
Yeah. So I think Morpheus has done a really nice job segmenting the market into a few different areas. We do our specialty gun auctions. We have two different types. One is what we call our extraordinary auctions. Those are generally going to be guns that are $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on up. That's like the auction that we have at the end of May. And the catalog for that auction is online now. Those are really extraordinary guns. There are some of the finest examples, highest condition, rarest, most unique things in the gun world. And they're there by the dozens or even by the hundreds. I think that's a 750 lot auction, and really an impressive offering of guns. The second type of auction that Morphy's does is called their field and range sale. So recognizing that there's a huge segment of the American population that can't afford $50,000, $100,000 guns, but love guns as much as we do, and buy them in the $500 to $3,500 or $500 to $5,000 space. Those guns are often found in our field and range sale. Those are guns that maybe aren't what we would call investment grade, but things that people can enjoy, they can use. And many of those guns are still very collectible. So the field and range sales have a huge audience. We get, literally hundreds or thousands of bidders, tens of thousands of bids, and it's a really broad audience. They're not as passionate a group as the guys who buy at the extraordinary sales, but they are a much broader base of people, and we see lots and lots of participation in both of those sales. The other thing that we've done is we've taken the edged weapons, armor, and militaria out. So those things, we call that our edged weapons, armor, and militaria, or EWAM for short. Our edged weapons, armor, and militaria sales, generally we do 2 of those a year as well. And those are going to be, classic Civil War swords, presentation swords, collectible knives, things like Loveless knives, or lots of Randall knives, or and then great militaria. So we've had really so many interesting, historically important historical military things in those sales that they're really, some of them are unique and exciting and just really cool pieces of American history or world history. So those are the different types of sales that we generally do. And we do field and range sales. We do 3 of those a year: edged weapons, armor, and militaria 2 a year, and extraordinary firearms auctions 2 a year as well.
Okay. And I know it must be a big process to go into an auction. What does it take to, advertise and put together the catalog? I mean, can you talk more about the process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things, I think there's a big misconception out there that, people see an auctioneer swinging a gavel on the podium and they say, geez, he just made $1,000 in buyer's premium or seller's commission on that lot. It's the easiest thing in the world. How can you go wrong? But what you don't see is a tremendous amount of work and the tremendous number of people that it takes to get all that work done that goes into the auction beforehand. So the process for selling in an auction is actually a longer process, and it takes a while. The auctioneer has a tremendous amount of work to do. It starts with a phone call or an email. Somebody will usually call us and say, hey, I've got 6 guns to sell, or dad died and we'd like to sell his gun collection. From there, it turns into a conversation. What did he have? And do you have an inventory list? And can you tell us about what he collected? And learn more about what the person has and what their expectations are for the things. We will oftentimes go look at it, or ask that they send us pictures. Email, pictures worth 1,000 words, and emailing photos is a really important thing, particularly, with some collections. If it's a well-known collection, we'll always just jump on an airplane and go see it almost immediately. From there, we will sit down with the client, talk about what their wants and needs are in selling those items, and what our capabilities are in helping them do that to achieve their goals. If the client agrees that, and we hope that they most often do, that we are the right choice to help them do that, most often we are prepared to bring those things back with us to our offices in Denver, Pennsylvania. So we signed a consignment agreement. Our consignment agreements are pretty straightforward. That kind of outlines what we said we were going to do and what we'll deliver, and also gives the consignor a set of expectations to deliver on as well. So if someone agrees they're going to consign with us, we get the things back to our offices in Denver, Pennsylvania. The first thing we do is photograph everything. The next thing we do is we sort the things so that they will go to the proper cataloger, right? So we have people on the staff that specialize in every genre of armor, arms, and militaria. So we want to make sure that the double-barrel shotguns don't go to the guy who specializes in Luger pistols. They go to the guy who specializes in double-barrel shotguns. And we spend a lot of time in the office there cataloging these things. So a cataloger will sit down with a Parker shotgun and examine the gun for maybe 30 minutes or an hour and write it up. You'll give a full detailed description of it and then a condition report. From there, the cataloger, also being the person with the most knowledge, requests the photographs. So the specialized photographs. So there's, may say, hey, this gun has a certain marking that makes it more valuable and more unique. It's got to go back to photography to make sure we have that marking in the catalog. After that's done, guns are wiped down and generally safely stored until we get ready for the auction preview. In between there, we're working on ads for all the different journals that we advertise in, the collectors associations, magazines, and then some TV ads as well. And things are often pulled for extra photographs for those things, particularly the highlights for the auction will be pulled for extra photographs for those things. And then we'll continue to work on our marketing plan as the auction gets closer. All of the guns are then assembled for the auction. So we will lot the sale, put all the guns in lot order for the auction, and then get ready to publish our catalog both online and then our print version. And then it's usually 5 weeks away from auction day. And typically when the auction catalogs go out, the phone starts ringing and it is a mad dash to the deadline to get extra photographs that people want to see, answer questions that may not be answered in the written descriptions, and then getting people. We work hard to get buyers involved in the auction, get them to become part of the process, part of the party, if you will, and hopefully get the best results for our consigners. So
yeah, it does definitely sounds like there's a lot of behind the scenes that happens.
Yeah, a tremendous amount of behind the scenes. There's no question about that. A lot of work goes into producing it.
What's your role, just out of curiosity?
Yep. So I work with clients throughout all 50 states to help bring things to Morphy Auctions as a sales agent and firearms consultant for them. I'm also a cataloger for them. So I spend a lot of time cataloging sporting shotguns in particular there. Even though I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, I spend a lot of time in Pennsylvania cataloging. And it's not uncommon for me to have catalog, 15 to 20 guns a day and spend 2 weeks in a row or something like that at Morphy's, just writing up guns all day, every day. Even when you're cataloging, you gotta sit down, you write it up, and then you need to measure the guns. We give everything in the descriptions, like the stock measurements, barrel measurements, chamber measurements, and all the little different details that most people would consider inertia that we consider important, to making sure that our buyers have all the information they need to make an informed decision and hopefully feel comfortable bidding as much as they possibly can because of that informed decision.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
information I would share.
Yeah. You talked about if when you go out and you get the guns and bring them in and you try to sell them, what are other ways that somebody can participate if they wanted to get on and look at the guns and then the process of buying a gun?
Yeah, right. So the auction is an important place to meet, right? So we bring buyers and sellers together. We're making it, at the end of the day, an auctioneer generally is making a market. So for somebody who wants to buy at auction, it's a pretty straightforward and easy process. We mail out thousands of complimentary catalogs and people who buy our catalogs. They're a beautiful hardbound book with professional, I would say, studio quality photographs. And again, you have these professionally written descriptions on each and every gun. In our field and range sales, you might see 3 or 4 guns on a page in the catalog. In our extraordinary sales, you might see 1 or 2 guns on a page in the catalog because of the amount of effort and information that needs to be given on those level of guns, so that people understand what makes them as good as they are. To come to the auction, of course, during normal times, you can just show up on auction morning. We'll always have food and drink out, and you're welcome to sit in our auction gallery, which has got very comfortable reclining seats that have a fold-over desk where you can put your catalog in and participate and watch the auctioneer as he or she is auctioning during the day. You can also always view our catalog online. And that's probably the best place to view it, because in a print catalog, we're not able to publish all of the photos that we take. So online, you might see as many as 20 photographs of one gun online, and that same gun might have 6 photographs in the catalog. And the catalog online, the photos can be blown up to, sometimes 100 times life size or more. So there are details you can see in those photos that you can't even see with the naked eye. When it comes to the auction, there's a number of different ways to participate in bid. The easiest way, of course, is to be there. And during normal times, we love when people come to our auctions. They're fun. As an auctioneer myself, I love being in front of a crowd of people in the auction gallery that are there and want to participate. The second way you can participate is through phone bidding. And that's pretty simple. You just say, hey, I'm interested in these 6 lots. Fill out a phone bid form. If you've bid with us before, pretty straightforward. If you haven't bid with us before, they may ask for a reference or 2. And during the auction, a lot or 2 before those guns come up, we'll just call you and tell you what the auctioneer has as far as the bid, what they're looking for. And if you want to bid, just say yes or no. The third way that's really grown tremendously over the last couple of years is a program that we use called Morphy Live. So that's as if you're sitting in the auction, participating and bidding, but you can be in the comfort of your own home, listening to the auctioneer, watching the auctioneer, and you just click your mouse and press bid, and now you're participating as if you were in the gallery raising your bid or paddle. And then there are several other online venues that we use, including Live Auctioneers, ProxyBid.com, and Invaluable.com, all of which are great online platforms. Again, you can use those from the convenience of your own home. And that's probably the easiest and most straightforward way to participate in the auction if you're not able to be there or do a phone bid. Now, there's one other way to participate, and that is to leave an absentee bid. So if you don't want to be available by phone and don't want to be bothered and aren't available to bid online, of course, you can just call into the office and let our customer service folks know, hey, I'm interested in this lot and I'd like to leave an absentee bid for this amount. As the auctioneer, when the lot comes up, you simply bid your left bid competitively with whatever's going on in the live audience and whatever's going on in those online platforms. And if you win, you win. And if you don't win, we of course always appreciate your participation.
Yeah, yeah. So what would be some of the pitfalls, or, I know there's a lot of ways for someone to buy a gun. I mean, they can, certainly go to the show. That we were all supposed to be at the
Sure.
Southern together. So I know a lot of people would choose to maybe hold the gun in their hand, but auction is the next, is a good way to get
Yeah.
some guns across. But what would be some negatives or pitfalls or things you have to watch out for?
Sure. So let's talk about that in kind of two pieces. Let's talk about the pitfalls to be looking out for when you think about selling a group of guns at auction as a seller. And then let's talk about the things to be concerned with as a buyer, right? So as a seller, there's a number of things you want to look for when you evaluate an auction company. I think first and foremost is their reputation. There are lots and lots of auctioneers out there. There are lots and lots of auctioneers that are specialty auctioneers as well. If you've got a group of guns, look for a firearms specialist. Look for somebody who knows how to appropriately handle those things. Does the person, and in the most basic sense of the word, I mean that, does the person have an FFL? Okay, does the company have an FFL? Or are they a part-time auctioneer, and when they get a group of guns, they partner up with a gun shop down the street, and which really isn't in your best interest. So you really want to work with someone who, if you have a group of guns to sell, who specializes in those types of things, and who also knows the market for those things. So if you're going to bring to market, again, we'll just pick on Parker shotguns. If you're going to bring to market a group of Parker shotguns, does this organization have a history of selling those things? Do they have the knowledge on where to help you market those things? And how have they done with them in the past? They're oftentimes one way that an auction company will be evaluated is based on what they charge. So someone will say, well, I'm only going to work with an auctioneer who charges less than this percentage amount, whatever that percent might be. And oftentimes, I say, sometimes jokingly, if you do that and use that as your sole method of valuation, what do they charge? You often get a fair exchange for value. So if they charge you nothing, you're getting nothing, And conversely, the person who may charge 5% or 10% more than nothing may be giving you a great presentation and a very high quality write-up, and will help you get 30% or 40% or 50% more money than the person who charged you zero. So
And they might have a better following too. They might have a better following. So the more
right,
people looking at your gun, the more you
right.
get for it.
That's critical. So it's critical. So I would say, as when you're evaluating an auctioneer, you want to know, do they have the following for the things that you're trying to sell, first and foremost. Secondly would be, are they charging a fair amount for the work that's involved? Or like I said, are you getting a fair exchange of value? Are they charging you very little and giving you very little? And if you're willing, if that's important to you, then, by all means, that could be an important criteria. If you, don't want to pay much in commission, and that doesn't matter, then by all means choose a low-cost auctioneer, because there are plenty of people out there that will do it for a very low cost. I would say in the sporting gun world, particularly as it relates to the things that we like to deal with, people that are the Southern side by side, do they have the expertise to catalog the things appropriately? So are they writing the things up with professionally written descriptions? Are they going to take professional photographs to present these things in their very best light? So you can take a certain gun and you can say it has 2 barrels, 2 triggers, and a butt pad, or you can describe its parts and give important things that sophisticated buyers will want to know, like barrel measurements and stock measurements, so that if somebody's going to buy this thing, will they understand what the fit is, and is it sound to use, and those kinds of things. The bore condition obviously being important, things like that. So do they have the expertise to write it up so that sophisticated buyers who will on auction day consider parting with their hard-earned money, will your auctioneer build confidence with those people? And then on the flip side of that, I would say the final thing or final things would be, how do they handle your things when they have them? Are you insured? Do they treat them as if they're their own? Is the quality of their photography to your liking? Is the quality of their marketing to your liking? And essentially, when you pick an auctioneer to sell with, that's what you're doing, is you're picking a partner who you are willing to pay some amount of the value of your goods to market the things for you and help you sell them to the best of their ability. So evaluating an auction company, I think when you start to look under the hood, you really do find that it isn't necessarily the most important to find the cheapest one, but oftentimes finding the one that has the most experience or the most expertise to help you get the most money, and working with someone that you can trust is important. Another thing is oftentimes folks will only look for a local auctioneer, which I think is also a mistake. I spend 200 days a year on the road and literally travel to all 50 states looking at collections all the time. So, if someone doesn't matter if they're here in North Carolina or in Wyoming, if they're looking at, potentially a high quality auction, of course, we'd love to have the opportunity to look at their things and have them consider us as a partner.
Yeah.
So,
So if somebody, I did have a question. If somebody they had a gun to sell, and let's say I had a gun and I wanted to sell it, and I didn't want to take less than $5,000 for it. How would auctions be the best for me, or like how much control do I give up?
yeah, so that's a great question. So the auction method of marketing, I would say, certainly is not for everyone, right? When you partner with an auctioneer, first and foremost, you and the auctioneer have to be on the same page about what the things have the potential of bringing. If you think a gun is worth $100,000 and an auctioneer who's active in the marketplace says, no, I think the gun's going to bring between 5 and 10,000, that's a problem. And you've got to work through that, right? Sometimes there's a meeting of the minds, and sometimes, that auctioneer or auctioning in general just isn't the right way for you to go. As far as reserves are concerned, generally speaking, most auctioneers are comfortable with reserves that are protective of your value. So if a gun has a chance to bring somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000, most auctioneers will let you put a reserve somewhere below $5,000 on that item. A lot of auction companies will let you reserve an item at 70 to potentially 80% of the low estimate. And, again, that means there's a likelihood that the reserve might be in your instance there, $3,500, $4,000. So potentially a risk you might have to take with the auction, that the thing might only bring a reserve. If you're consigning, I would say that if you're consigning one item, you need to consider that. What reserve are you comfortable with? And that's another thing. Some auctioneers give net reserves, meaning regardless of what expenses may be associated, your reserve is the net amount you will take in your pocket. Other auctioneers have a reserve, and there may be some, fees deducted from that amount. So you need to understand what type of reserve your auctioneer is willing to give you. Another thing to consider is, auctioneers generally don't like, in the auction method, a reserve that is intended to drive a high price. In other words, if a gun is typically seen at retail at $8,000, an $8,000 reserve probably isn't going to be suitable. If you're consigning, and I started to mention this earlier, if you're consigning a group of guns to an auction, the critical thing about that is that you look at, after the auction, you look at the bottom line. If your auctioneer has done a good job in marketing your things and promoting your things and writing up your things and photographing your things, the bottom line should be fine. If you consign 10 guns, inevitably there will be one or two you say, boy, we really gave that one away. And if you look at it line by line, you'll drive yourself nuts. Conversely, there'll be 6 or 7 in the same sales invoice where you say, well, they did about what I thought they would do. And there'll be 1 or 2 where you said, geez, I never would have had the guts or in my wildest dreams to ask that much money for it, or ever thought it would have brought that much. And it more than makes up typically for the 1 or 2 that didn't do quite as well. So when you focus on the bottom line, and oftentimes I have that conversation with the consignor, like, hey, bottom line, we said the guns were worth around $100,000. You got $105,000 in your pocket. Are you satisfied? And they'll say, yeah, but I still think this one went too cheap, and that's part of the process. You have to be willing to partner with an auctioneer, and you do give up some control when you join into that partnership. Just like if you're in business for yourself, or if you're in business with a partner, you have to look at it in the same way. If you're in business with a partner, whether you're a 50%, 50-50, or 51-49% partner, you do give up a little bit of control. And that, for some people, makes the auction method of marketing just not the right way to sell their goods. It's just they're not comfortable with that.
Yeah. Well, good. And so if I'm at an auction or online buying, and I've now bought a gun through you, what's the process now? Suppose I get it, and is there a period where I can look at it and make sure that it's what I want to keep?
Yep. So our auctions at Morphy's, we do something that's unique in the business. We put the guns out on display for 30 days prior to the auction. So we love it when you come to our gallery and look at things. We want the galleries open, 9 to 5 pretty much every day, 5 days a week, and then 6 days a week, the week before an auction. We love it when you come. We want to show you the great stuff that we have. We want you to enjoy being there. And we want you to examine and get as comfortable with the material as you need to be. For some people, it's just not possible. So we have professionally written descriptions within our catalog with condition reports, and we guarantee those descriptions for major discrepancies. So a major discrepancy would be, we said the gun had 95% original barrel blue. You get the gun and it's undoubtedly reblued. You may call one of the experts in the business. Say you call Turnbulls, for example, and they say, yeah, we have the gun here. We reblued the barrel in 2004. Okay, well, in that case, that's a major discrepancy, and we made a mistake. We're humans. No problem. Just call the office. Let us know what's going on. We'll probably have you return the gun to us, and then we'll refund your money. It doesn't happen often where we make a mistake, but we are human, and it happens a couple of times every auction. If you want to, when you get your gun, to take full advantage of that guarantee, we really do ask that you pay quickly so that we can get the gun boxed up, ship it to you, and then ultimately hopefully you're satisfied with it, and then pay our consigners in a timely fashion as well. So you do have an inspection period. And again, the inspection period isn't that, we said it had 95% original blue. You think it has 90% original blue. It's an inspection period and a guarantee against a major problem. So, that's something that very, very few auctioneers do in North America. Most auctions are as is, where is. Some of our competitors only guarantee the title. So it might say, Winchester 1886 rifle. Okay. That's what they item. We don't guarantee anything else about it. We guarantee the whole description against major problem. So you do have confidence, I think, when buying in a well-known and well-established auction company like ours.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, that's a lot of good information about the auction process, and for both a buyer and a seller. Now, I know that you do sell guns personally.
I do.
So
Yep.
can you talk to us briefly about Lowensteiner?
Sure. Yeah. So I've got this affliction that I love double guns, and it's unfortunately very costly. But I do love to buy and sell double guns, just as my dad has been an ardent collector for a really long time. I picked up the bug from him, and I do like to buy and sell this stuff. So, and I have my own collection. I do buy and sell on the side, and I help clients in a number of different ways. I help clients with collection building services. So I have a few private clients who have said, here's my wish list, and let's go out and buy these things. And I purvey those things for them and help them, buy better things and stick with the things that they're really looking for, staying on task and so forth, as opposed to getting distracted and buying things they might not otherwise want. I will always, if I have a client who, just isn't interested in selling at auction, and they just want to sell outright for cash, I'm always potentially a cash buyer for things. And always try to maintain an inventory of nice, high original condition things that I'm proud of that I offer for sale. And most often for those things, I either have private clients that I know that might want them, or advertise them readily on Guns International, and with great success. And I, just as I would do anywhere, I give a full description with full details, and happy to answer any questions. And I enjoy that part of my business. I think it's fun. And I think it's very much complementary to the work I do at Morphy's, because at Morphy's, we're always asked, what will something bring? And I think the best way to answer that question is when you're very active in the market, which I have been, knowing about what it's going to bring, knowing where the market is, where the players are, what people are looking for, what's in style, what's out of style. So I find the two businesses to be, not only rewarding, but they're also quite a bit of fun and complementary.
Yeah, keeps you busy, that's for sure.
It definitely does. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on the road, and I miss my kids quite a bit when I'm there, when I'm gone, and my wife.
Yes, yes. Well, it definitely, you probably have a wealth of knowledge being involved in both businesses. And certainly if anybody who's watching this wants to learn more, we're going to have the website for Lionstone and Morphy Auctions in the notes below.
That's
So
great.
definitely thank you for talking to us. And we hope that people connect with you if they want to either buy or sell a gun.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to be of service, and it's really been a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Liz.
All right. Thanks. See you, Josh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.